Hi everyone, just some thoughts on our experience of being the Christ choir back then and some thoughts on some songs. I was going to do this high tech with proper mics and all that, then I thought I'm just going to spend more time doing that than actually talking about what I want to. A couple of things overall about how I approach the choir and music. One was I wanted people to know something about what it felt like being in a band, because I loved being in bands. And I felt that everyone should have some kind of an opportunity of having that feeling of being in a band, of making music or doing music together. And a choir is a simpler way of doing that, the idea of making music together. Academically now, because I'm now an academic, I have to say, they call it music king, the act of doing music, rather than saying that music is some kind of object that is there to be appreciated. More that music is an act. And I think, even though I didn't know the term at the time, I was very caught up by that. Music is something we do rather than something we just passively listen to. So that was one part of the whole idea of doing the choir. Then I think another kind of overall point is the way I approach music is that some of you might have thought it, but I'm not a very good person on melody, and melody doesn't interest me. What interests me is the story told through the harmony and the rhythm. So that is another overall kind of point to make before we go into the individual songs. Again, I don't want these to be too long in this, this hard economy, especially the hard economy of attention. We don't really have much time for anything, which is fine, because having been diagnosed ADHD, and I'm doing the ADHD thing of rambling on and on, I don't have much attention either. So Magnify. Magnify, if you remember, it's essentially two parts, and in many ways it's two pieces. So I started writing the first part as this kind of a reflective, hope you can hear that. So if you can see again what I'm telling about the storytelling through the harmony, it's a lifting set of chords, right? The chords are going up. The melody is also going up. But as I said, for me, the chords are telling the story. Yeah, it starts with the slower part. I think in my original conception, it was going to be a slow, reflective piece. But in order to kind of make that movement of going up, and then there's a kind of symmetry that then comes back down, right? I forgot the words. And then be magnified goes down, doesn't it? Be magnified. Be magnified. So I think as it went on, I thought, oh, this is going to keep going down, and either I need to create something that feels that be magnified is a sense of getting bigger, but it felt getting smaller. So I thought, okay, maybe this should just go somewhere else, because in terms of the original kind of story of it, it is about something new happening. And if you remember, the original festival is called Magnificat, a song of hope. So there is hope of something new breaking in. So I thought, oh, maybe I can just represent that musically. I do have a score, which you can't see yet. I might put it up on the chat if people are interested. So the whole kind of be magnified goes, be magnified. And originally, I'd wanted this to be just a cappella, no instruments. But then I created a problem for myself where for his mercy lasts from age to age was going to be, I wanted it in a different key, the minorish key. For his mercy lasts from age to age. So coming down and then going back up. Generation on generation his love flows. So going back up and then back down again. Be magnified, be magnified, and magnified. And then the whole thing was meant to change. So how do I change? I kind of, that kind of building still in the, it feels as though it's in the same key, but in my head I've already changed key. So we come up, be magnified, and then, so I'm changing the key. Going into a kind of G minor. And at the time, I think I was listening to more kind of Latin jazz kind of thing. So it's got that. That hasn't come into the recording, but when we played it live, I used to play those kind of. So, and that became the overall riff, right? Magnify, magnify. So magnify, again, that idea of growing bigger. So I'm representing that by going higher. So some kind of a sonic imagery of growth, of things getting bigger. And then we come to the solos. So I've written out different points because there's some things I don't want to forget. Each solo was different, and now that's not usual. Normally in a song you'd have repetition, but in this case I think each solo is telling a slightly different story. And now we must remember that where's the text of this coming from? It comes from a song done by Mary, the mother of Jesus, and she is recounting different older songs and older stories from their history, from their faith history, political history, everything, of hope, of salvation, and not just a spiritual thing. It's also social, it's political, and so it's not just one kind of thing of the heart. There's different levels to that. And at different points it is about the poor being lifted up, the rich being brought down. There's some kind of a upheaval of different kinds. And so that's how each solo was going. And I don't know whether the tunes were adjusted to the different voices. Maybe the first one was Swati, which is slightly more bluesy, I would think. The Lord has shown his hand, power and strength. So maybe, is that more bluesy? I don't know. And after that there's Manila, the ones on the throne, he hasn't left alone. There I'm doing it again, some kind of sonic painting. Brought them down, down, down. So again the harmony is telling the story, everything. Brought them down, down, down. The whole bass line is moving down there, so that down is. And the third one, which Tanvi sang, again totally different melody. He has filled the hungry with good things. So that was, the line is fill the hungry with good things, just more gentle, something about how God cares for his people. So it's a more gentle line there, and then coming back. And then it was just, the whole point was to explode the song, and you have lots of repeats of magnify, 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 bit was didn't have a lead guitarist for most of our songs, so it was a way of doing lead. And at that time, I was listening to a lot of Pat Metheny, and there's a lot of doo-doo-doo day-to-days in Pat Metheny at the time. Man, this is a long score. It's got like 43 pages, and then just goes into Tommy solo. And it is just, at this point, it's just indulgence, really. It's not, I don't know where it is in the story. We've gone through most of the text of the original song, and we just kind of going through the whole thing. And then we finish from after the solo. That's just a kind of a modulation. Is it a trick? But it's a modulation. You kind of just keep changing the chords. They're all parallel, but the way they fit into each other means as though it feels like one movement, but it's all each kind of, it's just a constant set of modulations that are happening there. And the first note in that doesn't fit in the chord at all, but because there's so much happening, it just all gets washed, gets in with the wash. And then we finish with our flourish. With jazz hands, which kind of just naturally came out when we were playing once, I think, or I don't know. Was it a particular idea? I don't know. Maybe someone can remind me. How do we start doing the jazz hands at the end of that? It was just one of those things, isn't it? So I'm not going to take any more of that, and I hope others won't be as long as this, but I just wanted to set some things out. So great. Hope you like this one.